Welcome to this podcast for Brighton School of Business and Management students studying for the Btec Level 7 courses. For this unit you'll need to satisfy the criteria exactly as laid down in the assignment brief and as described here, but you should also, wherever possible, use examples from the strategic senior management activity taking place in your own organisation and business sector, as well as showing evidence of having studied the unit topics in depth and breadth by referring, where appropriate, to relevant models, theories and established best practices. To enhance your understanding of these assignment issues, we strongly advise that you also discuss them with senior managers and senior finance and accounting specialists within your own organisation. Each section should be approximately 375 words, but this is flexible up to around 450 words, not including graphics or illustrations, so you'll need to keep your responses focused on what is being specifically asked for in each section. Section 1. In the context of internal operational activity, the effective management of costs is highly important, which is why it is at the heart of management accounting. You'll need to expand on this, defining and discussing the role of costs and techniques such as marginal absorption and full costing. Then you'll need to relate the management of costs to the pricing strategy of an organisation, explaining the impact and the influence it has. For bullet point 2, ideally using your own organisation or those in your business sector, and talk with your tutor if this is not possible, you'll need to design and present an outline costing system comprising some of the elements discussed in your response above that is appropriate for the selected organisation or chosen sector. Bear in mind that the costing system must be supportive of the cost or pricing strategy, such as a cost leadership strategy of the selected organisation or sector. On the last bullet point, ideally focusing on your own organisation or those in your business sector, and again talk with your tutor if this is not possible, propose improvements to the current costing and pricing systems. Bear in mind that the improvements will need to avoid creating internal conflicts and should by default contribute positively to the organisation's strategic objectives. Section 2. Here you need to select an organisation or business sector, ideally your own, and use that as a vehicle for your response. In essence, you'll need to discuss the application of established forecasting and auditing tools and techniques such as SWOT or PESTLE in combination with an analysis of the organisation's current and future strategic objectives in order to optimise the chances of achieving those objectives. Broadly, sources of funds fall into two groups: internal funds, generated by cost savings, efficiencies and revenues and retained profits, and external funds, obtained from shareholders, banks, grant agencies, long-term investments, etc. You need to list, define and show how you would assess the availability, value and potential contribution of each of these sources for a specific project. Ideally, this project should be one that applies to your own organisation, and if that is not possible, then talk to your tutor regarding alternatives. Section 3. Depending on the organisation in which you work, you may have responsibility for areas of expenditure such as human resources, which is likely to include wages and salaries, or expenditure on equipment such as office furniture. In sales and marketing, budgets may include promotional spend and the cost of employing outside agencies. For most established businesses, budget areas for senior managers are likely to be already in place. For startup and developing businesses, however, new budget areas need to be developed. You need to focus on targets for each area of expenditure, which would normally be compared with actual expenditure on a monthly basis. You need to explain how you would select appropriate budgetary targets and what corrective action you might take to address any variances between actual and forecast expenditure. Here you need to focus on your current role, or if that is impractical then on a recent role, and describe how you and managers and specialists at a similar level contribute to the compilation of the master budget, particularly as to how you ensure that your budget format, flexible, zero-based or programme, and your budget requirements are in line with and support the organisation's financial situation and its strategic objectives. Bullet point 3 is best answered by giving an overview of the budget monitoring process at your strategic manager level, and then support this with specific examples of how forecast and actual outcomes are dealt with, and then how any corrective action is fed back into your local budget and the master budget. Finally, focusing ideally on your experiences in your own organisation or previous organisation, and talk with your tutor if this is not possible. Here you need to discuss how you would evaluate the budgetary monitoring process, that is, the mechanisms, the methods used, the regularity of the monitoring, the quality of the monitoring, and the way in which variances are responded to. Section 4, again focusing on your own organisation or business sector, and talk with your tutor if this is not possible. You need to discuss the cost reduction processes that you feel should be implemented or reinforced. You'll need to discuss processes and approaches such as zero-based budgeting, changing to programme budgeting, cost reduction initiatives, supplier vetting, implementing KPIs and training initiatives, and so on. Activity-based costing, ABC, has advantages such as helping with future product planning and disadvantages such as being potentially time-consuming. For this response, you need to list these advantages and disadvantages, ideally relating them to your own organisation or business sector, and give examples of where the advantages might outweigh the disadvantages. Section 5. For this you will need to do exactly as asked, identify a range of investment projects available in the public and private sector, and show how you would apply appraisal methods, such as using an investment appraisal checklist or using the DCFF or IRR techniques in order to decide on whether to invest or not in particular organisational projects. On bullet point 2, project and initiative auditing and monitoring provides feedback and closes the loop in the capital investment decision-making process and can help identify deviations from current strategic investment expectations and help an organisation improve on future strategic investments. You'll need to expand on this, illustrating the role of financial information in this process. On the last bullet point, focusing on your own organisation or business sector, and talk with your tutor if this is not possible, you need to discuss the relevance, appropriateness and value of using information from a post-audit appraisal, that is, carrying out an in-depth analysis of the actual costs and benefits of an investment project after it has been implemented in comparison to initial expectations. This process is very similar to the closure, review and evaluation process used in project management. You need to give examples of how this process has been used or could be used to appraise an actual investment decision. Section 6. There are a number of methods that can be used in analysing financial statements, such as comparative statements, funds analysis, trends analysis and ratio analysis. You'll need to give examples of actual financial statements, P&L accounts, balance sheet, cash flow forecast, ideally those of your own organisation or as used in your business sector, and explain how the analysis of these helps the organisation and its stakeholders to assess the financial viability of the organisation. Here you'll need to give an overview of how financial ratios are calculated and used to analyse an organisation's financial statements in more depth and breadth to gain more understanding of the financial health of that organisation, and then you need to give specific examples of ratios such as for profitability, liquidity, activity and long-term solvency, and then explain how these ratios enhance and illuminate the financial information that has been made available. On the last bullet point, you should focus on ideally your own organisation or a typical organisation in your business sector and discuss how an organisation should reshape its product or services strategic portfolio based on the current situation and visible trends that are apparent from its current financial information and financial and performance forecasts. You also need to write a reflective statement and add a list of sources of information and references showing any books, websites, articles, case studies, reports, internal documents and people interviewed that you drew on to complete this assignment. The reflective statement and sources of information and references are not included in your word count. Here is a list of websites that you should find useful when completing this assignment. If you need any further help or assistance with this assignment, please contact your tutor.